If prayer were made of sound, the skies over England that night would have deafened the world. Captains paced their decks, pilots tapped their gauges, commanders pored over maps, fully aware that for all the months of meticulous planning, everything could go wrong. The winds, the tides, the element of surprise, and above all, the audacious bet that what waited on the other side of the channel would compel men not to shrink away, but to charge ahead. Fresh-faced GIs rubbed trinkets, kissed pictures of sweethearts, checked and rechecked their equipment. God, asked one, give me guts. And in the pre-dawn hours, planes rumbled down runways, gliders and paratroopers slipped through the sky. Giant screws began to turn on an armada that looked more like ships than sea. And more than 150,000 souls set off toward this tiny sliver of sand upon which hung more than the fate of a war, but rather the course of human history. President Hollande, distinguished guests, I am honored to return here today to pay tribute to the men and women of a generation who defied every danger. Among them are veterans of D-Day. And gentlemen, we are truly humbled by your presence here today.
Beautiful. Yo, what up, Navas? It's your boy Philco here. You can do whatever. Your boy Philco here, talking a little bit about the clip you just saw. For those of you who don't know what D-Day is, because I have a lot of Russians who watch this and they don't really learn about this stuff too much, but D-Day was the day where the West, basically, the Western allies like America, Britain, blah, 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 where they decided to invade the territories in Europe that the Nazis have taken over. And that's when they got involved in that part of World War II. Like, they started really fighting them, and like a lot of people came. It was crazy shit. You know, a lot of people died, but you know, it's the day they remember. I would say this is the equivalent. I don't know if this is equivalent, but it's similar. It's similar, not the same. It's similar to Russia's Victory Day. Not the same, but it's similar. Because D-Day isn't celebrating the victory necessarily, or a victory. It's more just celebrating the day in which they landed. The day in which they started this mission. You understand? So it's not like a, oh yeah, we did great, we won the war kind of day, like with Russia. With the West is more of a day they just started doing it. A day they'll never forget, okay? So I need you guys to understand that, alright? Now on to World War II. I try to avoid the topic of World War II a little bit with Russians, but since I have a bigger audience now, I want to talk a little bit about this whole World War II thing. Now, I'm going to tell you what I first thought about World War II when I was in America. Because when I lived in Queensbridge Projects, one thing I did all day, this is when my life was simple. I mean, I had no money or nothing, but my life was so simple. Every day I just watched TV, played video games. And I used to watch World War II in color all the time. And one thing I thought was that, you know, America's doing what they did in the East and Asia, and then while Russia was fighting the Germans, the Western Allies, whatever, came and invaded Europe, and together Russia and the Western Allies squeezed in to get Hitler, and Russia got to him first. That's what I basically learned. Basically what my thought was at the time was that America and Russia basically worked together to get that victory. Now time has gone on, and my opinion has changed a little bit, but at the same time, I really don't have one anymore, because I hear different things when I'm in Russia than when I'm in America, and different things when I was in Germany. I've heard all 3 points. I've heard the Russian point of view, the American point of view, and the Nazi German point of view. The girl I lived with in Germany, they weren't Nazis, but they hated Russians. They weren't Nazis though, but they were descendants of fucking Lebensborn babies. You know, I told you guys this. Lebensborn was a facility that that Hitler had, in which only pure blonde-haired, blue-eyed, tall people can make babies together. And her parents are descended from that facility. So like it's strange to say, like I don't want to try to disrespect their family, but they have some Nazi pride. They do, a little bit. No matter how much they deny it. I knew the day when I was at dinner and Hitler came up in a conversation and I said some shit like, yeah, Hitler was an asshole, he was stupid. And the father said in German and told her to translate, the father said he wasn't that bad. That's when I knew where I was. I was like, yo, my black ass, I better start traveling now. And I mean, they weren't racist, obviously. They just had some pride in Hitler because of what he's done. Because, you know, that's the first place I learned. That's the first place I learned in Germany that Hitler did a lot of good things and a lot of impressive things before he started fucking up. Like, dude went from a homeless guy. You know, he wanted to be an artist. You know, they fucked around with him. Really couldn't be an artist. He had no game with girls. Hitler had no game with girls. He was in love with his fucking cousin. He fucking annoyed her to death. You know, like he had no game with girls. And so he was in World War I, got his ass kicked at just some messenger soldier. World War II, he's the commander, and he's taking over the countries that pissed him off. That's pretty fucking impressive, whether you like the man or not. Like, just read about it, and you will see. Like, from a homeless dude on the street to almost taking over the world, fuck out of here. That's impressive whether you like it or not. I do not like Hitler, but I understand that point of view. And I won't hear that point of view from anywhere else. Now, they didn't say he was good. They say he did a lot of impressive shit. You know, he almost wiped out unemployment in his country and all this stuff. He did a lot of good things for his country, roads, bridges, but at the same time, it was on the back of other people too. So it's like, yeah, it's good for them. Like that wasn't me at the table. It was good for him and his German people, but unfortunately, it was bad for the others he didn't like. You know, he hated communists, he hated Jews, he hated Russians very, very much. So to the World War II thing. Now, a lot of Russians would ask me, why do Americans celebrate World War II, or why do they think they won World War II, or why blah, 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 this and this and that. Now, from the simplest way I can see it, when people say that to me, first thing I would say back to them is, why not? Why can't Americans celebrate a World War II victory? A World War II victory. That's usually what I ask. Why can't they celebrate it? And they would say these basic things. America invaded Europe once, or the Allies. When I say America, I mean the Allies too, you know, but the Americans are the most powerful, whatever. American and its allies. America basically invaded Europe and all that stuff once they knew Russia was going to win. And I'm like, okay, but even with that, why do you think America can't celebrate a World War II victory? And everything they say is Hitler, Germany, Nazis. And then I always got to remind them, and this reminder always shuts them up. I say, okay, I can agree with you and all that. I can even say, in my opinion, I would say America invaded Europe just so they can keep soldiers there. And then, yeah, maybe they knew Russia was going to win. But the thing is, Russia and America, we weren't allies, but we weren't enemies. We were helping each other out with communication, selling of weapons and stuff like that. We did work together, people, a little bit. All right, I will give Russia the victory and stuff. But the reason why Russians are so sensitive is because they lost a lot of people. But logically, you can't put victory on a country, or a country look victorious because you lost people. That's not how it works. You know, your victory depends on how many people you take from the other side, not that you lost. Only thing that it means when you lost a lot of people, what that means is it means more to you. Yes, it's more emotional for you. Like it means a whole lot more. Your homeland was invaded, I understand. But just because your homeland was invaded and a lot of people were killed, that doesn't give you more of a victory. Victory doesn't work that way. So like if two people get in a fight, one guy beat the shit out the other guy and never gets touched, he won the fight. So if a guy fights another guy, he almost dies, but he wins the fight. No, he didn't win more than the other guy. He actually lost a little bit, and the other guy won more because he wasn't touched. That's how victory is measured, not by who you lose, it's how much you take away from the other side. So basically what I'm trying to say with this here is, yeah, Russia lost more people, but what they always forget is Japan, nigga! They always forget Japan. Right? I'm like, I always say, oh, why did they can't celebrate blah blah blah? And I go, what about Japan? And they never have a response to that. It's like, oh yeah, that. Yes, that! That's why Americans can celebrate a World War II victory. It is a world war, people. There's different battles, whatever, different little conflicts going on during that world war. It's not a Russia war. It's not an America war. It's a world war. And during that world war, America fucked the shit out of Japan. Hard body. We can even though it's not really something to celebrate because we killed a lot of women and children. You know, we did it in Germany too. But we killed a lot of women and children, but nevertheless, it's a victory. We got what we wanted, they surrendered. That's a World War II victory. It doesn't mean we won all of World War II. It was our victory during World War II. Your victory during World War II, if you're Russian and watching this, was the capture of Hitler and the saving of your homeland. Yes, you did it. Just like we didn't take over Japan, just like I told you guys, and I'll always say this, America's goal is always to keep some troops in your country. That's always America's goal. If wherever America goes with his army, they're not leaving unless they're defeated. Vietnam. But wherever they go, they stay there. They're still there. There's still an army there. You know, even in Poland, trust me, Americans don't leave. I think part of the reason why America went into Europe, of course, maybe they wanted to save people, blah, 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 but it's because they wanted their military to also stay there and establish a base. That's what America always does. Nobody can deny this shit. You know, when Obama first came in office, we're going to have all the soldiers out of Afghanistan. Yeah, they're all going to be out of there. They're still there. They're still there. You can hate me all you want. You can call me unpatriotic. I don't have a problem with America, but I'm keeping it real. America keeps its troops everywhere. Anywhere they touch, they stay there. They don't leave. They may say, oh, we're going to leave. So let's say maybe there's 100,000 troops there. Okay, our troops are going to leave. There'll still be 5,000 there. There's always going to be some sort of military presence there if they can hold it there. They're not just going to vanish. That's not how America works. I don't know if it's world domination or just a comfort thing, but that's what America likes to do. And now to the German thing I was speaking about, when America did a lot of killing during the war. I'm not a World War II expert. I'm just basically giving the basics here. America did a lot of carpet bombing. What is carpet bombing? That's random bombing of random places. Yeah, we were aiming at targets. Get the fuck out of here. It's random bombings of random places just to bring down the morale of the country. So they killed a lot of women and children, not only in Japan with nuclear bombs, but in Germany with a lot of just regular bombs. They call it carpet bombing. Just a lot of bombing of just, innocent people. And during this, there were times where Russia and America were very close somewhere in Germany, and there was a saying amongst German people. The saying was, usually girls would say it, they'd say, it's better to have an American above you than a Russian on top of you. And what that meant was during the war, a lot of Americans were randomly killing people from airplanes, but the Russian soldiers were raping the women. And you can look this up, I'm not making this shit up, you can look it up. It's better to have an American above you than a Russian on top of you. That's how they said it. So all the Germans would rather surrender to America rather than Russia because they knew America would be nicer to them. They'd be more merciful than the Russians because the Russians had reason to not be merciful. The Russians had reason. America, we didn't get shit really touched on our side. Like no one's really came to America and did shit. There were some submarines near California from Japan, but they didn't really do anything. Besides Pearl Harbor, which, I know there's a lot of speculation and, all that stuff. We'll talk about that some other video. But other than that, no, we weren't really touched. Our people were absolutely fine. They're fucking partying during this whole thing. Like, you have no idea what a lot of Russians went through. You know what I mean? But maybe I'll get to that in another video. So that was the saying. Russians had a reason to not show any mercy to any German at that time. They had reason to, whenever they see a German in Germany, just kill them because of what happened in their land. Like, I went to a city called, what city was that? It was Volgograd. I went to Volgograd, and Volgograd used to be known as Stalingrad. Right? Stalingrad, Volgograd.
No,
so what was Leningrad? Leningrad, yeah. Sorry, I got it confused. Volgograd used to be known as Leningrad. And this was basically the biggest...
St. Petersburg was Leningrad.
So what the fuck was Volgograd? Volgograd had a name before.
No.
Yes, it did.
Leningrad, St. Petersburg. I've never heard about.
So I was right. What was the name of that movie that came out about... What's the name of that famous Russian war movie? It's not that old.
Stalingrad.
So that's Volgograd. I was right. Jesus. Why do I know more about...
That's not Leningrad.
I asked you. Okay. It's all on tape. I don't have to argue. I'll watch the tape after. I was right, and I went to you for assurance, and then you just confused me. But anyway, it was known as Stalingrad, okay? And apparently this was a battle, the most fierce battle. Many, many people died in that city in Russia, and that's what basically turned the tide. That's where Russia started pushing towards the West, not like towards like American shit, but Western, like pushing the German forces back. That was the battle. And in that city, they have a panorama museum. So basically, you're in this big room, like a big, humongous room, and like everywhere you look, all 360 degrees up, even down, whatever, you see some remnants of World War II. So you see like a plane, you see painting. The top is just painting. But as you look at the ground, it's actual shit. So you see like real helmets and real weapons and parts of tanks and all this stuff, and it has like this real gloomy feel, and it kind of feels like you're there. Now, me not being Russian, it was kind of awkward for me being there, because a lot of the Russian people who were there were kind of like, they weren't really looking at me, they weren't paying me much attention, but when they did catch eyes with me, they didn't stare at me. You know, they just looked and they kept going, and like, I'm used to being stared at in Russia, but the simple fact that in the panorama they weren't staring at me, it showed that like they had like this really meant something to them. They didn't give a fuck about me at the time. It was about what they were watching. You know, so this is the first place in Russia where people just looked at me and just kept moving, no staring. And when I say stare, it doesn't mean there's always an evil stare. I mean, just kind of even just a, like, wow, it's a black guy stare. I didn't even get that. They didn't give a fuck, because the place is so emotional, and all you could think of is that battle. And, you know, the guy speaking in Russian, they had some translators, and we're listening to things that happened that day, how people were running out of rations, and they had to fight on an empty stomach, and how people were just, it was bad. It was graphic, you know. And how people who needed food would like run outside during a war, run outside to see if they could find anything to eat during the war, cooking dead bodies and shit, because people had to live. And it's crazy thinking that people actually went through this, women and children, you know? So, yeah, that's basically why the war is so much more emotional for Russians. It means a whole lot more, but it doesn't change the facts, you understand? Like, I know you lost a lot of people, but losing people doesn't make you win a war more. It doesn't. If you lost nobody, or you lost almost everybody, a win is still a win. You know, the only difference is emotional shit. That's it. So, D-Day, yay, celebrate America. But in the end of the day, I don't give a fuck who won. I don't like focusing so much on this people won, these people won, this people did more than that, these people did more than that. What I would wish the world would focus on is the fact that we actually cooperated with each other. And we got a victory that the world benefited from. That's what I see. You can teach your people all you want about how much your country did, sure, but let's stop trying to talk down on the other countries. I hate that shit. It's like, oh, we did more than them, we did more than them. Oh, grow up. Just grow the fuck up. We actually communicated, and we both assisted in a way. Whether you like it or not, we both assisted each other. And I'm not saying if it weren't for America, Russia wouldn't have won. And I'm not saying if it weren't for Russia, America wouldn't have won. It would just be great for the world if we learn to appreciate each other and what we do for each other, rather than just, we're better, we're better, we're better. That's why we're having problems now, because we're all stuck in this we're better mentality. Our government is stuck on this we're better than them mentality, rather than looking at what they're doing and trying to understand it. Now, I know America rides Russia a whole lot more than Russia rides America. Like, America complains more about Russia's rules and stuff like that. I'm aware of that, and I wish we would stop. But Americans cannot accept different cultures that easily. We just can't. We just really cannot. You know, I'm like one of the only black people who come out here and say, oh, you guys got the word nigger, and your language is nigger, it's not offensive to y'all? Okay, I accept it. It's your country. Not a lot of Americans can do that shit, because they're only stuck in their American mentality. Whenever they hear that word, they think of America, slavery, white people having black slaves. Russia never had black slaves. They don't have that kind of mentality. Don't think of it like that, but we still have to think of it like that because we're stuck in America with our brains. So I just excuse my American people who aren't able to accept different things. But other than that, that's it, people. World War II, hey man, it was crazy. But every country on the side of victory has something to celebrate, whether you like it or not. That's it. And if anything I said was historically inaccurate, let me know. I'm not trying to say I'm an expert, but hey, just let me know what you think. I love reading comments and shit, especially when it's about history. So I'm out. Later, knuckles.